Why are you personally in crypto? For the tech, right? The reality is most of us are in this space because we want to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are all kinds of reasons people like yourself, like myself, are attracted to this space. The risk return options are a lot more appealing. And this is probably especially true for the young tech-savvy investors that are entering this space. And so all of these variables together got us thinking, what about using our crypto investments for retirement? Can the average trader realistically expect to retire someday on their crypto investments? And let's now structure a little bit further. For somebody that wants to retire, let's say in the next 6 years by the year 2030, what would their crypto portfolio have to look like today? Well, let's crunch some numbers and figure it out. Welcome to the channel. My name is Matty and this is Altcoin Buzz. I wish you all the best of luck if you choose to invest and if you choose to retire. But look, I'm not a financial or investment advisor, so just please keep in mind that this video is not official financial or investment advice. Okay, so let's start from the beginning with some wide-angle questions here and some considerations. First of all, if crypto is exclusively going to fund your retirement, then the first question is, how much money do you need to retire by that year that we described, 2030? How much money do you need to retire within the next 6 years? So we're going to use the year 2030 as a baseline. Of course, that is 6 years from now. And we're using that specifically because if current trends hold, who knows if they will, but if current trends hold, that would mean that we get 2 more bull markets and possibly 3, but at least 2 bear markets in those next 6 years. It is also important to know that just because we've had mostly 2-year cycles of bull and bear markets, that's not to say that this is going to continue as a guarantee. This structure itself could change. And so we're going to have to be pretty ruthless here to compensate in terms of our investment selection. In terms of that question, how much money do we need? And the reality here is that when we ask that question, how much money do we need to fully retire by the year 2030? The reality is that we're going to get some different answers here for different people, of course. It's going to be subjective and there's going to be some variability, obviously, but there are some universal assumptions that we can make. So, for example, if you are outside the so-called West, meaning that you're not living in the United States, you're not living in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Western Europe, places also like Singapore, Dubai, then the reality is that you can fortunately survive on much, much less. For most of the rest of the world, if you had between $500,000 and $1 million, you'd probably have more than enough to retire. So that's the good news. But then for those of us living in the West, the number becomes a lot more difficult to calculate. A lot of financial advisors and professionals out there will recommend either a 4% return on your principal or a 4% withdrawal rate. And with those figures in mind, in the United States or in Canada, with $2 million, for example, and good discipline, you can earn $80,000 in interest without ever touching the principal. Or with a 4% withdrawal rate, you'd have $80,000 for 25 years. And so at a ballpark level, those are kind of the figures that we're talking about here. $1 million if you're outside the West and $2 million if you're within Western countries. Maybe you could survive on less, maybe you could survive on more. Of course, there are other variables to consider here, but I don't want to get too dragged down in the subjective aspects of this. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. What do you wish you knew about finance before getting into crypto? A lot, I would bet. Even with so much information spread all over the web, financial education tools tend to be rare. And even more rare is real financial literacy using crypto and Web3 tools. Mogaland, however, is here to change that. Mogaland gamifies financial education. So instead of reading a book or a dry article about budgeting, maybe income statements or PE ratios, you play a game and you learn while you play. And you don't just learn, you also earn while you learn. That is because Mogaland is a play-to-earn game, plus it is free to get started. With Mogaland, you advance in the game every time you learn something new, and then you get rewards as you advance. The team behind Mogaland comes from traditional banking, investment, and fintech backgrounds to best ensure that you are learning the right things to get to real financial literacy. Not only is it free to get started, but Mogaland has a big airdrop campaign going on. They are giving the community $50,000 or more in prizes on Zeely. That is going on now, and the campaign is ongoing until the 2nd of June. The prize split is as follows: $20,000 in prizes for tasks that you complete on Zilli, and $30,000 in Moga, that's MOGA, for in-game competitions. So you get the most out of this airdrop by doing both the Zilli tasks and, of course, by playing Mogaland. This is a great deal because you can improve your financial education or someone you know and earn tokens while you learn. So if you want to learn more about Mogaland and take part in their airdrop, all you have to do is check out their X, Telegram, and Discord communities to find out more and get started. Also, check out the links that we'll include in the description of this video below. Okay, so in order to simplify the numbers a little bit, we're going to use $500,000 as a figure for those living outside the West. And for those in the West, we'll use $2 million. And that means if you're working off of a $10,000 initial investment, you'll need to multiply that by either 50 or 200 times respectively. Now that is doable in crypto, but it's going to be more difficult. And certainly we're not recommending any shortcuts here. We're not talking about gambling on highly speculative meme coins. It's doable, it's going to take discipline, and it's going to require patience and a focus on quality projects and long-term growth mentality. Here is what the ideal portfolio looks like to us with a minimum of 6 coins. First of all, we have to start with Bitcoin. You cannot have a portfolio without BTC. If you do, if you choose to forget about Bitcoin, you're simply doing it wrong. It is the original, it's the best, plain and simple. I really cannot overstate the importance of having Bitcoin in your portfolio. Now, 2030, to refocus on our timeline here, is 6 years away. So as a decent reference point here, we can take a look at how Bitcoin has done over the last 6 years. Going back to May 2018, the price was at $9,634. Today's price, as I record, is $61,404. By simply taking the current value of Bitcoin and dividing it by its May 2018 value, we see that Bitcoin and BTC have done a 6.37x. So a greater than 6x return is a very strong start, and it's getting us to where we need to go. And by the way, that 6x was without all the buying from the ETF funds in the US and now Hong Kong, or the reduced supply from 2 halvings. And I would argue that it's also reasonable to assume a greater than 6x return in the next 6 years. The second component of our portfolio is going to be Ethereum. And this one is a little bit more controversial as a choice, as there are lots of ETH lovers and ETH haters alike that are out there. Trust me, I know. Even our team at Altcoin Buzz is a little bit split on the idea here. But one area that we agree on is that, first of all, Ethereum has by far the most alt liquidity. It also has by far the most dApps, and it also has the network effects related to the 2 points that I just made. So it definitely has a place in this portfolio as well. We're going to ask the same question now. How did ETH perform in the last 6 years? Well, in early May 2018, the price of ETH stood at $808. Today, as you can see, we're at $2,986. And if you do the calculation here, that is a 3.69 multiplication. And just like Bitcoin, this is going to be a very strong, more conservative, but fundamental base for our portfolio. Smaller projects and altcoins out there are going to offer more volatility and can potentially offer more gains. But on the negative side, they can potentially also lose a lot more than BTC and ETH. And so that stability, that's part of the foundation here that we're trying to set up with both Bitcoin and Ethereum. With that being said, let's look at the rest of our portfolio. So with Bitcoin and Ethereum out of the way, let's now consider what else we should be adding. And we'll start by considering the 3 leading sectors in crypto. These are sectors and narratives that are simply not going away. In fact, they're only going to get exponentially larger over the next 6 years as we see it. These are AI, artificial intelligence, DEPIN, and RWAs, real world assets. And we see a couple of different ways here to add these to a portfolio. Using your allocation to buy 1 or 2 leaders, that's one strategy. Or maybe buying a leader and a small cap, that's another strategy. Our next video is actually going to break this down in much more detail, so stay tuned for that. But the point is, regardless of the size of your portfolio, you're absolutely going to need exposure to these 3 sectors if you want that 50x or 200x that you're going to need to fund your retirement. It's a really simple question. Do you think AI is going to be either a bigger part or a smaller part of our lives 6 years from now? Now you can ask that same question about DEPIN. and real world assets? The answers for all three questions are pretty obvious. The answer is especially obvious for AI and for the tokenization of assets. Keep in mind that soon every asset class is going to have tokenized assets, breaking them down into smaller and smaller pieces so that basically anyone can invest in them, anyone who would want to. And as far as AI goes, we really like Render, Akash, and Golem. In the RWA space, we like Centrifuge, Goldfinch, and Ondo. And in DEPIN, we're big fans of Arweave, Peak, a new project, and Polymesh. And then we're reserving the last spot in our 2030 retirement portfolio for a meme coin. And I'm a little bit surprised that I'm even saying it, but it's true. Meme coins do have a place in our industry, for better or for worse. And honestly, picking the right one can negate many other portfolio errors because the ROI is just so extraordinary for a successful meme coin pick. Check out this example of a portfolio with 5 meme coins. You can right a lot of wrongs with just one huge meme coin ROI. It really does push your whole portfolio over the top. In this example, 4 out of 5 of our choices went to 0. Let's just say a couple of them were rug pulls outright, but one of our choices was a grand slam, and it just carried us above and beyond all the losses that we were otherwise facing. And that is something to consider. So we are going to have more videos on this subject of crypto retirement. And in our next video, we're going to go over coin options in these particular sectors and how to put this plan in place. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be out soon.